Welcome in. This is The Spread. I am Cameron Tarrant. With me, as always, my esteemed co-host, SoCon John Hooper. SoCon John, it is Selection Sunday. March
Yes.
Madness is
And the
upon us.
Mountaineers are playing the Spartans. And no, it's not an old SoCon battle. It's a new NCAA tournament battle, which hasn't happened since like 2000. So
Yes.
interesting.
It is the day that a lot of people have been waiting for. John, we missed this last year. In 2020, we did not get this because of COVID and the shutdowns of everything, the cancellations. We did not have an NCAA tournament last year. We're getting that this year.
Yeah,
Happening.
it's kind of bizarre because you think back and you're like, who's the last? Oh yeah, it was Virginia. It's like
2019.
they
It's
beat
been
Texas Tech.
Yep, it has been
They beat Texas Tech like 600 days ago. I don't know how long it is.
And Virginia, look, they're not where they thought they might be in the bracket. They are there, but they're not probably where they thought they might be. The bracket revealed today,
Where
John.
you would expect.
Yeah, we're going to bring that to you. John and I are going to go through our brackets. We're actually going to go ahead and fill out our brackets, make our predictions for the NCAA tournament. We may disagree on a number of things, and we'll see where we end up, John, who we think is going to be the tournament champions. We're also going to try to talk a little SoCon football. There was a great weekend of Southern Conference football yesterday, John. Furman getting a great come-from-behind win. We can talk about that. VMI continuing to just roll along, having a historic spring season for the Keydets there. Western Carolina gets on the board with a win, and then Samford with a big win, stretching their winning streak over the Terriers yesterday, John. So we can talk some Yes, we could talk some football later on in the show. But, John, the big thing is Selection Sunday. Who's the number one?
One of my favorite day of the year for a sports fan. No question about it.
Absolutely. And looking, and some of the big questions coming in, who are going to be the one seeds? Where's Clemson going to fall? Where's UNCG, the Southern Conference tournament champions? Where are they going to fall? Some of the questions that we've got that will be answered because we already know the bracket. ESPN is going to be revealing it here shortly. CBS has already released it, so we know what the bracket's going to look like. So we know the answer to the question. So, it's going to be interesting. The number one seeds, John, no shock, Gonzaga, the number one overall.
I mean, they didn't lose a game, so how can you rank them anything but the number one overall seed? Similar to Wichita State, which I think was like 2011, maybe, when they came in, and you remember they were undefeated, and I think the last team to do it was in 1976, Indiana, under Bobby Knight, went wire to wire, but still a lot of work to do for Gonzaga. The reward for Appalachian State or Norfolk State, whoever wins that matchup, will be a game with Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. App State,
obviously, they can't play in football, Cameron.
No, first tournament appearance, I believe, for the Mountaineers in 21 years? 20 years?
21 years. The last time they were in it, went dancing in 2000, played the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by Scooney Penn, who was a transfer from Boston College to Ohio State. Back then, App State's point guard would have been Tyson Patterson, so pretty good point guard matchup in that one.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to the tournament starting this week, John. I believe the first 4 games take place on Thursday. That'd be the 18th. So let's go ahead and take a look at those first 4 teams. Sorry to mention Gonzaga, the number one overall. Illinois, Baylor, and Michigan, the 3 other 1 seeds in the bracket.
The Big Ten gets 2.
Yep.
It showed its strength this year, getting 9 teams overall. Big Ten was by far the strongest conference throughout the season.
Yeah, and figured Baylor would be up there as a number 1, and then little surprised, but not surprised at the same time that Michigan ended up getting a 1 seed. Thought maybe
Yeah,
Bama, with the way Bama winning the SEC tournament championship today, thought maybe they could squeak in as a 1, but clearly they're going as the committee or whatever, going with the Wolverines.
and I think you can make an argument for either Nate Oates or Juwan Howard being the coach of the year.
Yes.
Neither of these teams were thought of as number 1 seeds coming into even this year. But both of them, even said during the broadcast today, the SEC championship, that Nate Oates was expecting it to be a 3 or 4 year rebuilding project, and he's done it in 2. Part of the reason he got the SEC Coach of the Year award this year, and they were dominant. I mean, even though the game was close today, they dominated. They went, I think, 16-2 conference play, and they're a very good basketball team.
Absolutely, they really are. So those 4 are your number 1 seeds for the bracket. John, now we'll take a look at the first 4 games. These are the last couple of teams that were able to kind of sort of, some of them, get into the tournament. Let's take a look at those games here. You got Norfolk State up against your App State Mountaineers in that 16-16 matchup. Wichita State Drake, that's an interesting game, John, between you got the Shockers there.
It's old Missouri Valley conference battle. And one of the interesting things we were talking about before the show is Drake and Colorado State, one of the teams that was left out. The first 4 teams, I think the second to last team left out behind Louisville, was a place that Nico Medved, the former Furman coach, both of those places he coached at. So he recruited a lot of the players that are at Drake right now. And obviously, Colorado State's a place that he left Drake after 1 season to go where he was formerly the assistant coach at Colorado State before coming to Furman, and then things kind of came full circle. So I always think about, the committee, they have a little background on each of these, matchups, and you wonder if there wasn't like somebody that felt jaded by Coach Medved leaving Colorado State, or leaving Drake for Colorado State. So I always think that's fascinating, but I hate it for Coach Medved. He's a good person, and I was wishing he would get in. So
absolutely, Louisville, one of those teams that just one of the first 4 out that are actually, I guess the way they're going to do it this year, with replacement teams, they're going to let like those first 4 out sort of be alternates in case a team gets COVID and can't go, which is kind of interesting. We talked about Virginia not quite where they thought they'd be seated. Was that a concern of the selection? Part of the reason they didn't get a lower seed due to some COVID issues. Maybe they can throw in a Louisville or Colorado State in their place if they can't go.
I almost feel like, and I don't want to say this, there's like a conspiracy to get like an extra ACC team in, but like now you have to wonder if they weren't already planning to just put them 4th and then like let a marginal ACC team in.
Yes.
I really don't understand it, because they see the way they seeded the ACC teams. Like, okay, so I don't know what the Florida State Virginia regular season matchup was. But I got to assume that Florida State won that game pretty handily. Because like Florida State is a 3.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and Virginia was the regular season champion.
Florida State's a 4, not a 3.
Okay, there are 4. So they seeded both. Interestingly enough, you've got 2 ACC teams that were in the top 10 to 15 all year, and you see them both as 4 seeds, which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And normally, even in a down year, the ACC is considered by most to be, among probably the top 3 conferences in the country. Which we obviously knew the Big 10 was good, the Big 12 was good. But then after that, I mean, you could make an argument for the ACC, certainly. But I'm a little bit shocked that to come up with reasons for why that happened.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch. That may be different this year. Is how they're gonna do that with replacement teams. If a team gets COVID, can't go, they're gonna see if they can
And how
throw.
about this? Louisville gets left out. If they beat Duke, they're likely in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
I
how
mean, 'cause
about
that was the first team left out.
and look, there was some question marks about if they would put Duke in or not. Blue
They're
Devils,
nowhere near.
yeah,
Which
Blue
is,
Devils.
I'm glad the committee didn't let. I mean, I'm glad that they didn't let that
There was some
happen.
speculation that they might, but the
ESPN
Blue
was
Devils,
pushing, and I was like, no, please, ESPN, don't do
yeah,
this.
nowhere close to that. The last two, how about the 16-16 matchup here? Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern, very good season for them. That'll be an interesting game in which the winner goes and plays Michigan in that 16-1 matchup.
I was telling you before the show, Texas Southern was a team that was in Greenville back in 2017 in the NCAA tournament, and they won. They actually won their first 4 game, and then they played the eventual. I said they played Duke before the show, but I looked it up. They played the eventual national champion North Carolina, as one of the 16s against a 1, and both Duke and North Carolina were in Greenville. And then, so that's an interesting game because that team is always going to be, the HBCUs normally are the weaker of the conferences. So they play the NEC, Mount St. Mary's, and if we're doing a mascot battle here, we got Mountaineers and Mountaineers if you count West Virginia.
There you go. Hey, I like it. Got 3 Mountaineer teams in the tournament there of 68. That's awesome. And then an intriguing 11-11 matchup between 2 basketball blue bloods that didn't have quite the year they would have liked, but they're still in the tournament. Michigan State and UCLA, an interesting, I think, a really intriguing matchup in the first 4 on Thursday.
Where have you been lately, UCLA? Or for that matter, where have you been lately, Michigan State?
Yeah.
In the elite part of college basketball. But I wonder if they didn't, they had to look at it from a conference perspective, how they rated the Pac-12 compared to the ACC, because you could have put Louisville, and I'm sure they considered Louisville or UCLA. Michigan State was probably more of a safe pick because they were in the Big Ten, and they did have a win over Michigan. So I wonder how that went.
I don't know.
And they didn't. Interestingly enough, they didn't penalize Michigan, the 1 seed, for losing Isaiah Livers, who is arguably their, if not their best player, their second best player. So, as far as how that hurts Michigan, I don't know, but it won't help them.
No,
I do know that, but they're pretty deep, so they're going to miss him. But I'm sure that they've got enough weapons to be still, I think, a challenger for a Final Four spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a fun tournament. John, let's go through each bracket and let's go ahead and just make our predictions of what's going to happen, what we think is going to happen come the tournament starting Wednesday with those first 4 games. We're going to call this the bracket challenge here, John, between us. And let's start with those first 4 games. Who we think is going to get actually into the tournament of 64. Who are the first 4 winners here between let's start with App State, Norfolk State.
Well, the last time App State was in the FCS. Oh, wait, I'm just kidding. They did play South Carolina State 1 year, but in same conference, Spartans, not the UNCG Spartans, but the Norfolk State Spartans and Appalachian State. I can't go against my alma mater and Coach Dustin Kearns and what they were able to accomplish in his second year on the job of taking the stairs there in Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah, I like the Mountaineers too. They've had a really good year. Obviously, winning the winning the Sun Belt there and getting their spot in the tournament. Look, Norfolk State hasn't had a bad year either. The 16-7, a 16 seed potential to try to get in and take on that Gonzaga team. But like you, I think App State's going to ride that momentum that they had in the Sun Belt tournament and get a win, at least one win, and get to the first round game.
And Norfolk State, for all our listeners out there, is a team that is dangerous. Before Nate Oates got to Alabama, I believe I'm right by saying that's back in the 2019 NIT. You might need to look this up, but I think they did win at Alabama. When I guess that would have been Avery Johnson's last game as head coach.
Yeah.
So, just a kind of a and we think about 215 upsets, and I know there are 16, but you always think about that Norfolk State Missouri game back, I guess, in the 2011 tournament or 2012 tournament. It was the same year we had the Lehigh upset of Duke. So Norfolk State knows the territory well, and they certainly have navigated it more than Appalachian State lately.
Yeah. Well, we're both going to take the Mountaineers in that first bowl game. All right, John, how about we got the Bulldogs of Drake taking on the Shockers of Wichita State on Thursday. That 11-11 game, the winner will go on to play the Trojans of USC in the first round. Who do you like here, Drake or the Shockers?
Old Missouri Valley Conference matchup. I always think about the Missouri Valley, the old school, like with Indiana State and some of those matchups, and Wichita State, and I always think about like the movie Hoosiers for some reason. but maybe it's because Butler also used to be in that conference. But very good rivalry back in the day. But I guess Coach Fries there at Drake has benefited from having Nico Medved's players for a couple of years. So obviously I'm biased there. I'm going to go Drake.
Drake's played 29 games compared to 21 for Wichita State, which, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of difference.
Drake was ranked for a long time before their leading scorer, which was also like the freshman of the year, his name escapes me right now, got injured. He was averaging a little over 14 a game, and they still recovered to beat Loyola without him in one game. Because the Missouri Valley was one of the conferences that had like the lead. I don't know if they had any games canceled altogether.
Yeah.
So they did the whole thing where you play back to back. And so I know they split, like Loyola won the first game like by 30, and then like Drake won the next day. So.
Yes. Yeah,
so I think Drake's going to win that.
I'm actually going to go with Wichita State. Look, they can shoot, they can score in bunches. They've got a really good they're really good from behind the arc and 3-point. Drake's been good too. It's been a great season for the Bulldogs, but there's just something about Wichita State. Anytime they get in the tournament, they seem to make a little bit of magic happen.
They shock you.
They do. They shock you. And it's not just in baseball where they used to have runs in Omaha all the time.
I think they won it one year or something.
Yeah.
Do you know they used to have a football team at Wichita State? And Willie Jeffries, who was a legendary coach at South Carolina State, was once the coach at Wichita State. But when they canceled the program, he came to South Carolina State. It's like a stupid fact, but it's. I couldn't tell you the years, but I just know it happened.
Hey, but it happened. But yeah, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Wichita State there to pull off get a first 4 in.
I understand. That'll be a really good game. It'd certainly be worth watching.
Yeah, how about the 11 game Michigan State UCLA, John? I think it's an intriguing matchup between the Bruins and the Spartans. Again, both are blue blood institutions that haven't had much success of recent. That one of those teams gets a win there. They've got an interesting matchup in the 6-11 game in the first round against BYU. So who do you like to get through the first 4 on Thursday and make it to BYU?
two programs. You talk about Michigan State. Back in the day when they used to have the green clad jacket of Judd Heathcote, and and for UCLA, or excuse me, yeah, you had John Wooden, obviously, who had like a 80 game winning streak or whatever. But like two really programs that haven't been near where they were in the past, but two we still hold in high regard. I like UCLA, shockingly enough.
No, I completely agree with you. I like the Bruins as well.
And they're kind of a team that's flown under the radar a little bit because, just because no one really watches Pac-12 basketball. I don't think except Bill Walton.
Bill Walton's he's the only one.
So, which I think he's just so crazy. It's worth tuning into. I mean, like they should have him on. They should have him and Barkley on the NCAA tournament show or whatever.
Amazing.
But I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go UCLA. They shoot the ball a little bit better than Michigan State. That's what I'm gonna go with.
No, I like it. I like the pick. I'm going with the Bruins as well. They've had every year statistically than Michigan State, and I just think they're playing really good basketball right now. So I'm gonna take the Bruins as well. And then John, the last of the first four games, you get Mount St. Mary's taking on Texas Southern.
Texas Southern. Pull up their schedule really fast. Was that last year they had a big upset of someone? But normally, like much like Norfolk State, they're a one of those HBCUs that is really competitive because they like front load their schedule in the non-conference because they have to get money. So like they'll play a bunch of major programs, and by this, they've played a bunch of now in a year like this with COVID and everything. I don't know how many of those games got canceled or carried. I think it probably hurt HBCUs more than anything because those games weren't able to be played or, be scheduled. So having said all that, I'm going to go with Mount St. Mary's.
Interesting.
Texas Southern is a very, very good basketball. They're very capable of winning that game, though.
Texas Southern, the Tigers have a 9-game win streak going on right now, dating all the way back.
I bet you they had some of those games that were in the non-conference. Always prepares them for their league.
And look, they haven't lost a game since February 21st against Prairie View. They've gone 9 straight. They win the SWAC. With a nice win, a big win over Prairie View in the SWAC finals just a couple days ago. I'm going to go with the Tigers. I think they've had a really good year. They're a team that can.
Now that is interesting. Is Mike Anderson still or Mike Davis still the coach there?
That I don't know. Let me see.
Former Indiana coach, former.
That I don't know.
Anyway, I know he was a coach at UAB as well.
Yeah.
Indiana, he beat Duke in 2002, I believe.
Yeah, that
it was against.
Sure. So, but yeah, I'm gonna take. I like Texas Southern there. They're averaging close to 75 points a game. They hold opponents under 70. Play pretty
That's
good.
One of those conferences that I don't know. I haven't watched. I haven't seen them play in a few. Since they played here in Greenville. But
I'm not saying they'll beat Michigan, but they could pose maybe a threat for the Wolverines in the first round.
Yeah, that's one of those teams similar to a Gardner-Webb a few years ago, if you'll remember. Well, that as long as maybe that's why Virginia is not in the 116 game.
Yes.
So maybe maybe there is a conspiracy here. Interestingly enough, but the last 2 games that's the kind of team that could, if we're looking for a 16 seed to kind of push a 1, that's the kind of team that could do it. Certainly. I honestly think, and this is not being biased, but the way Appalachian State defends you, I'm not saying they beat Gonzaga, but like that's a nightmare matchup for
Yeah.
Gonzaga. Now that you know, based on talent, they should win it, but like you just don't know. I mean, some of this the NCAA tournament produces so many contrasts and
Yeah.
styles, which I think is fascinating.
All right. So we've picked our first four. We both like App State. I think we both like UCLA. Differing on the Drake Wichita State game and differing on the Mount St. Mary's Texas Southern game should be very intriguing. I mean, all four of those should be very intriguing matchups. All right, John. So let's start now with the West region with your number one overall seed in Gonzaga. They're going to take on that winner of the the App State game, I believe it is.
Spartans, Mountaineers.
Yep. So they'll take on Gonzaga. Will take on App State or Norfolk State.
Mm-hmm.
We both picked App State. Do you think the Mountaineers have any shot of taking down Gonzaga in the first round?
I mean, I'm never gonna say completely that. I mean, we specialize in upsets in other sports, but you know, that's kind of our MO. But I'm never gonna count them out. Like the one reason I think that they could keep the game frighteningly close for Mark Few is their strength is defensively. They defend really well. They, you know, Alamansi, the point guard, is very tough to guard one-on-one. I'll be interested to see how Gonzaga approaches that. And, you know, because they defend well, it enabled them to make a run in what we saw in the Sun Belt tournament that no one really foresaw coming. But they're kind of that team that's pesky and can stay around in a basketball game. And certainly we've seen Gonzaga under Mark Few. They've disappointed so many times before because they haven't been able to clear that hurdle of getting, you know, the national championship. So, you know, maybe that weighs on their mind if this game gets down to 5 minutes to go and it's a 1 or 2 possession game.
Yeah,
I like Gonzaga if you're going to ask.
I think App State could keep it close, but honestly, Gonzaga's probably not losing for a while in the tournament. They're not going to be Virginia in 2018 losing.
Actually,
UMC, UC, whatever. The retreat.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But like the other thing about that is like if Norfolk State were to beat App State, they would like that's literally a horrible matchup for Norfolk State, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, I think Gonzaga would literally beat them by, like, 50.
Yeah, App State probably would give them a better game.
Right. But the weird thing about basketball is I think the Norfolk State-App State game is close. I know that isn't, like, it wouldn't make sense.
But it's all because basketball is a game of matchups. And it's all about teams that match up well against each other. One team can match up better against another team. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but it is weird. But I agree. But
App State would keep it closer with Gonzaga if we're going to talk about that. You know?
We both like Gonzaga there. Gonzaga going to move on second round. Who did they face? Oklahoma or Missouri? This is an Oklahoma team, went 15-10 this year.
They were disappointing for me towards the end of the season. Like they peaked way too early.
Was it? Yeah, I mean, they lose to Kansas in the conference tournament, you know, just a few days ago, in which they were just getting. Was it them that were just getting just?
It was 30-15 at halftime, I think. 15 points in the first half for Oklahoma, and I'm venturing to guess that's a season low and a half. But
yeah,
you know what? I like Missouri. I've watched them play a couple of times this year. They were a nightmare for Alabama in the regular season. They were the team that I felt like matched up the best with the SEC champion, which I think Alabama's a very good basketball team, will make a very good run in the NCAA tournament.
They played
Missouri. Should they win? I think that's a dangerous game for Gonzaga.
Yeah, and look, Missouri they beat Florida. not too long ago.
They did beat Alabama, right? Or did
Uh,
Alabama come back and beat them? I can't remember.
they lost Arkansas in the SEC tournament.
I mean, during the regular season, Missouri, I
They
think,
did 68-65
right,
over
right.
Alabama. I mean, they're
So
they're an up and down team. But Oklahoma,
Missouri was a team that kind of just shocked everybody. Remember we talked about it? They got off to a 5-0 start. They
yeah,
beat who at the time we didn't know Kentucky was in any, like so and they beat Georgia Tech, I believe. I think that's right. I'd have to look at their schedule, but they had some good non-conference wins, and some maybe that were a little bit unexpected.
yeah.
And this is a team that was
I'm a
predicted.
little shocked that that they ended up putting Missouri as the 9 under Oklahoma. I thought I would have switched them. I would have put Missouri as the 8.
Right, that's what I thought
Oklahoma is
because it shows you they didn't really value the SEC very very highly, which
the
I
SEC
thought this was a
very
better year
good.
for the
Yeah,
SEC.
yeah, with teams like Florida and Alabama,
Right.
LSU, very good year for the
Mhm.
Tiger. The SEC was very, very good this
When you
year.
look at the year and the role that the run that Arkansas got on, I think Arkansas is another team that can make a good run. Like every SEC team that got picked, like I don't feel bad about necessarily.
Yeah,
Maybe Tennessee, but I think Tennessee will stay in games because of the way they defend people.
yeah. I like Missouri matching up very well against Oklahoma here. So we both like a Gonzaga Missouri game in the second round. Which you did mention that that could be a scary game
That's a
for
problem
Gonzaga.
matchup because they're one of those teams that like they're real streaky shooting team and their guards are big and physical. Like normally, so like this is where I guess Gonzaga is not really a mid-major program, but they're in a mid-major conference. So they don't really recruit to their conference, but like they don't see a whole lot of teams physically built like Missouri,
Yeah,
like in their league, which I think although Gonzaga is good, they need a few of those matchups every year. Like,
yeah.
and they didn't get as many of them this year because of COVID.
So
I
if we
mean,
so we got a Gonzaga Missouri matchup, but do the Zags, are they able to avoid?
I'm gonna go Missouri.
You're saying that Gonzaga's not making it to the Sweet 16? Wow,
Shocker.
you like the tie? I'm going to actually take Gonzaga. I'll give them. It's going to be close. I think Missouri actually matches up well with them, but I think Gonzaga's strong enough to avoid that.
I mean, I think if Gonzaga played in a different league, like they're good enough to play in, let's say, for example, the Pac-12, that would benefit them more than playing in the West Coast Conference. Because I feel like you go through 2 months of playing nobody's.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that BYU's good, or they had a close game in their conference tournament or whatever championship. But that being said, they don't get tested enough, and that for me has been the biggest problem for me picking Gonzaga when they have had enough talent.
I don't know, man. I just think Gonzaga's got. I think they're strong enough to avoid.
Makes you wonder if we could have gotten to see that Gonzaga Baylor.
Look, they're 26-0. Come on, you got to give them a little bit.
Yeah, but they didn't play Baylor because of COVID. I mean, like who did they actually beat in the non-conference? They beat a bad Auburn team, I think. Like Bruce Pearl sweating it out over there. I mean, they, I would have liked to, like, for instance, last year they played down at the or whenever we played last in 2019, they played in the Atlantis tournament and they played North Carolina, they played Michigan. Those were some really good teams that they were tested against in the non-conference. Because we didn't have those tournaments in those big matchups, they had few opportunities for that than they normally would.
Yeah. All right, so we got different teams moving on to the Sweet 16. You actually like Missouri. I'm taking Gonzaga to make it there. All right, John. So back to the first round. We got a 5-12 game with Creighton against UC Santa Barbara.
There's something going on with Creighton. Creighton, I mean, I'm going to take nothing away. Georgetown has been playing dynamic basketball. They beat Villanova, but they beat Creighton by, 31 points?
It's 70.
And I realize, in Creighton's program coached by Doug McDermott, I believe, and he's actually the coach that got suspended and then reinstated. I don't know if you remember that, but for making some comment. I don't know. It seems to, just looking at that on the surface, that bad PR for them has seemed to have affected the team. Would you agree with that? I mean,
yeah, I was actually, I'm struggling with this one, honestly, because I feel like maybe Creighton is better on paper.
Yeah, but you don't know what's going on in the psyche.
I'm not so sure that UC Santa Barbara doesn't get
that's what I'm thinking.
Doesn't bust some brackets early on here.
The Gauchos, is that right?
The Gauchos.
Yes. They have an awesome mascot, by the way.
Which, they beat UC Irvine.
That's a sneaky. That's a Big West is a sneaky good conference sometimes.
And look, they've got some dudes on this team, man. They've got some players that can score and can shoot the ball.
I think I'm going Santa Barbara.
I think I'm going with the Gauchos. I was going to put Creighton, but you're right. The coaching situation, and there's so much off the court stuff going on with Creighton right now. And look, there's always the 5-12 games always seem to be the ones that give you the biggest, those 12 teams are always a tough out for some reason.
Right.
Those 12. I think I'm going with the Gauchos in a big upset here.
I do too, because I think, and I don't know what's going on with the Creighton thing, but obviously I think Georgetown would have won the game, because they're just playing good basketball. But do I think it's a 31-point margin right there? No. I mean, I think that absolutely had something to do with the coaching stuff and the PR they've been getting.
Absolutely. So we're going to take Santa Barbara to get on to the second round. All right. Below them, the highly favored Virginia Cavs team that probably, had they stayed healthy in the ACC tournament, probably ends up winning the ACC tournament. But we'll never know because of the COVID situation with them and not being able to finish out the ACC tournament. They dropped to a 4 seed, John, which is a little surprising. And they're going up against an Ohio team, that's not bad at all.
I'm going to tell you, of the mid-major conferences, the team that usually scare coaches the most are teams that come from the Mid-American. It's not considered that anymore, but the Atlantic 10 or these conferences, they play good teams. Ohio plays good teams, and they've got good tradition. I often think of Akron's got a very good tradition in basketball. Obviously, it's not in football, so it had to be in something. But Kent State, Buffalo's good. I mean, they were so that's where Nate Oates came.
And this is an Ohio team that beat Buffalo 84-69 in the MAC championship game.
And Nate Oates, he left that program when he was there. Remember 3 years ago or 4 years ago when Buffalo made the run? I guess it was the Sweet 16. Yeah. And they came out of nowhere and just absolutely boat raced somebody. And one of those games, it was a big, I may have been Michigan State. I can't right off the top of my head. I can't remember. But that's those teams, the MAC's always dangerous, and they did Virginia. Virginia would probably rather play a 16 this year.
Yeah, you're probably right. I still think though that Virginia.
I still think they win.
Yeah,
but I think they sweat one out.
Yeah, but I think you're right. But I'm gonna take Virginia. So we've got a Virginia. If they're healthy now, they've got to test negative
Well, we may have to alter that, but because you don't
Yeah,
know, like you don't know if they only have 7 players available, and like you're telling me
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
mean, I might alter it and say Ohio wins because depending on which players you have available, um, I don't think you just throw anybody out there for Virginia and be win that game. So
No,
I think they got to be healthy. If they are, and I'm basing that on, I think they win a close one.
if they're healthy, I think they're actually the best team
And
in
yeah,
this
I
in
agree
this
with that.
in this bracket.
I
Which
would I would have them picked, and not to spoil anything, but to go a long way. And if you're telling me to just look at these teams right here, most people would say Gonzaga. I'd look at it and say, well, Virginia's probably the way they
yeah,
defend people.
if Virginia's healthy, I think they get by Ohio. I think they get by the second round, whether it be Creighton or
Yeah,
Santa Barbara, which
I agree.
we both think it's Santa Barbara. I've
Yeah,
actually got so we've got Gonzaga. I've got Gonzaga, Virginia in the
I
Sweet
got like only the major upset that I have is Missouri, and but it's not. I still think Virginia is the best team. If I'm just looking at these teams right here, I think Virginia is the best of those teams.
I'm picking Virginia to go to the Elite Eight. So I've got Gonzaga and Virginia in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and
I think Virginia wins that game.
right, I do too. Well, I would have let's see, I would have Missouri, and that I'd have them beating Missouri.
You would have them. So we both have Virginia getting out of that top half of the West
Mhm.
bracket, getting
I
to
think
the
that's
Elite
why
Eight.
it's shocking to me. If there's something else going on, I don't know about. Like I don't know how they came up with 4. Unless it was just like they don't need to be playing
Yeah,
16 seeds. They've already been enough of an
yeah,
embarrassment to the ACC in the past. Gardner Webb and UMBC, we can't have that happening again. So
yeah, exactly. So we've got Virginia, both of us different routes of getting there, but we've got
yeah,
Virginia making it to the Elite Eight. All right, John, the bottom half of that West bracket will start with the 6-11 game. We're differing here. I've got Wichita State playing USC. You've got Drake in that game. Does that 11 team, whoever it is, do they upset the Trojans in that 6-11 game right there?
well, this is a dangerous matchup for Andy Enfield, who, of course, got famous and got that job by taking the Florida Gulf Coast Dunk City back in, I guess it was 2012 or something like that,
Yeah.
to the Sweet 16. So Andy Enfield has struggled to get back since and really make noise in the NCAA tournament. That being said, I think they beat Drake in that game and move on. Chavez Goodwin, who formerly of the Wofford Terriers, will be able to play in another NCAA tournament and get a win, as he did in 2019 when they did so against Seton Hall. Wofford, that is.
I'm going to shock you, John.
You're gonna go. I'm sorry. Whoever you had winning.
Wichita State's going to get.
You're gonna have a shocker.
The Shockers are going to not only get their great,
you just like the way their mascot looks.
the hay hair,
Corn stalks coming out of its head or whatever.
Yeah.
That
Shockers,
was
baby.
interesting. That is like when I saw them come to Greenville a few years ago and how many fans traveled with them, like that's a real like those people live and die that kind. It doesn't matter if it's NIT and they're playing at Timmons Arena. Those people are diehards. I mean, like they live for basketball season. Obviously, they can't for football anymore, but not many people in Kansas, except for Isaiah Simmons, play football. But
I'm gonna go the Shockers. They're gonna make a little run. They're gonna make a little run. I've got them going to the second round. Now, I don't have them going much further than than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how far are you picking them to go?
No, I think they get by USC. But look, Kansas in the 3 seed, they're playing Eastern.
Hey, you're gonna have an all Kansas matchup.
I am. I'm going to have Wichita.
You're gonna have Kansas, Wichita State.
Kansas, Wichita State in a Kansas battle. There in the second.
I'd be willing to guess that they don't play a lot.
For the obvious reason. Wichita and Lawrence going to meet in Indianapolis in the second round?
Breadbasket game.
Yeah. Who do you like? You like Kansas to get past Eastern Washington there in that 3-14?
Yeah, I mean there were some great days there when was it Diedrich Stuckey or whatever his name was, or who was the guy that played for the Lakers from Eastern Washington? I know they're probably partying in Cheney, Washington, right tonight on their red field out there. But I'm sad to say that Kansas is gonna just, lick the red off their cherry apple in this one.
Boat race them. I agree.
Yeah, Kansas is playing. Kansas is playing as good a basketball as anybody in the nation, and no one actually realizes it yet.
The way they were just absolutely hammering Oklahoma the other night in the
and it came. This run by Kansas has come on the heels of them falling out of the rankings for the first time since 2008 or 11. It's something crazy like that.
They've gotten hot coming down the stretch. It's incredible. I mean,
and if we talk about off the court stuff, Bill Self, they're still dealing with the NCAA's investigation of the FBI stuff, and there was a lot of ominous clouds hanging over the program, and they seem to have cleared that now. And you can't tell me that didn't have an effect on the way they started out the season, as well as COVID.
But look, they were able to right the ship. Unfortunately for them, COVID hit right there in the middle of the Big 12 tournament. And they weren't able to cash in on that hot streak that they'd been having.
No pun intended, right?
No pun intended. I mean, there's no telling. They could have probably given Baylor or somebody a run.
What I find fascinating about the Big 12 is you got two programs in Kansas and Oklahoma State that were at the center of that investigation by the FBI, because if you'll remember, Oklahoma State actually had an assistant, and they looked into the South Carolina's program as well. Because he was there prior to going, I guess, to Oklahoma State or vice versa, or he was, it may have been the other way around. But those two programs have rebounded to kind of overcome all that negativity that was surrounding those programs.
So we got Kansas moving on, getting to the Sweet 16, I'm assuming.
Yep.
All right. Oregon VCU 7-10 game. VCU, the Rams, man, getting in there. They're always Virginia Commonwealth. They're always tough come tournament time.
Yeah, I mean Oregon's good though. Likes to run. They've always been a team that likes to get up and down. VCU, much in the same fashion under Shaka Smart, was, a couple disciples out there, as Mike Morrell being one of them at UNC Asheville. They do a very similar, press you the whole time. Will Wade, obviously, at LSU. They don't do that at LSU now, but another part of that coaching tree. VCU has been very successful. Hands down, I'm taking the Rams here. Mike Rhodes is a very good coach. I think the world of how they built that program. I got them beating Oregon.
I think Oregon's going to have a tough time on their hands, but I'm going to go with the Ducks. Dana Altman's team's going to get through it.
I think they're going to navigate their way down the Reedy River.
They're good. They'll get through it. It'll be close. I think that'll be one of the better games in the first round is this one. But I like the Ducks. I like the Ducks to
should be. I mean, I don't expect like a 59-58 game. I think those two teams will get after it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then that leaves the 2-15 matchup between Iowa, Luke Garza and Iowa taking on Grand Canyon University.
Grand Canyon better have a Grand Canyon-sized center to match up with Luke Garza.
Is this Grand Canyon's tournament debut? Do we know? Have they ever been before? Is that something anybody know?
I think they have. Wait, have they?
Nope, it is their first. Grand Canyon earned its first tournament bid in school history with a win over New Mexico State in the WAC championship. So a newbie to the big dance.
And that's a very good New Mexico State program you just mentioned.
Any shockers?
That's a program that's routinely, like traditionally in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Chris Jan's the head coach there at New Mexico State. The only reason he probably hasn't progressed beyond that job is because of some of the off the court issues he's had while there. But I mean, so that's a very good tournament victory championship for Grand Canyon. It's a program that's still getting its feet wet as a Division One. Formerly headed up by, if you'll remember, Dan Marley of the Phoenix Suns. So yeah, I think Lou Garza's too much though.
Okay. Yeah, I got Iowa. John, when was the fun fact here? Let's see if you can guess who was the last 15 to upset a 2?
Norfolk State to beat Missouri.
Middle Tennessee beating Michigan State in 2016.
And, Kermit Davis was that, or maybe, yeah, I think that's right. Middle Tennessee State. He's actually the coach that probably went a long way in getting him the job at Ole Miss. I think that's where he is. So, and Ole Miss, the team that just missed out, apparently.
2 seeds are 132 and 8 all time against 15.
No, another great one, Hampton over Georgetown. It's like 2001 maybe, or 2002.
Yeah. And yep. All right, so moving on from there. So I've got Kansas beating Wichita.
I'm sorry. Was it Hampton over Iowa State maybe? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I've got Kansas and Wichita playing in the second round. I've got the Jayhawks moving on to the Sweet 16. And then how about this? I've got Oregon and Iowa. I think Iowa wins that matchup, but you've got a VCU Iowa in the second round.
The battle of yellow and gold.
Yeah. Are the Rams going to keep it going? They're going to be a little magic for Virginia Commonwealth. Did they upset Luke Garza?
I mean, I just think Luke Garza is such a tough matchup. I mean, try having like a 7'8" guy that can shoot threes and rebound.
Oh, yeah, man.
I mean, I think VCU will give them a good game. I just think they present a lot of matchup problems. And Fran McCaffrey, formerly obviously coached in the Southern Conference at UNC Greensboro, I think he's a very good basketball coach. And I think Iowa moves on.
All right, who they play in the Sweet 16?
So
you've got
Kansas. They're going to play Kansas.
You've got Kansas USC.
Kansas.
You're going to take Kansas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, so I've got Kansas, Iowa. That's a 3-2 matchup in the Sweet 16.
I got Kansas.
Oh,
I just think Kansas
over Iowa.
I think Kansas is playing amazing basketball right now. So, yeah, I'm going to go Jayhawks. Rock Chalk.
Man, I don't think there's any stopping Luke Garza on that Iowa Hawkeye team.
Yeah, you would think that, but they were the prohibitive favorites in the Big Ten this year, and then out of nowhere comes Michigan. But do they have the best player in college basketball? Of course, I think Lou Garza is. But what does he have around him, and what? I know they have some good perimeter threats. So I think it'll be. I certainly think that the Midwest here is going to be highlighted with some very good basketball and an intriguing matchup, but I think Kansas wins.
All right, so you've got a Kansas-Virginia Elite 8 matchup. I've got Virginia-Iowa. Who you got going to the Final Four from the West bracket?
Kansas.
Oh, you've got the 3 seed making it all the way to the Final Four.
I'm riding the Jayhawk to the Final Four at least.
Man, we talked about it. They're playing good basketball right now.
Of the blue blood programs right now, Kansas and North Carolina are going to go a long way in the tournament, I think. Well, I don't know if North Carolina will because they're 8-9, but they're playing I will say they're playing some of the best basketball in the country that really a lot of people are missing right now, I guess, because they're concentrating on Gonzaga, Baylor,
I'm gonna ride the ACC regular season
I
tournament.
think Virginia's
Regular
good
season
enough to win it.
I think Virginia beats Iowa because of defense. Virginia's defense is
Right.
outstanding.
It is. It is.
I think
And
that's
if
what.
they shoot it well,
Yeah.
the only problem Kansas might give Virginia is their big men are so good, like athletic and good. I feel like Kansas and North Carolina, like they might as well just have NBA front courts every year. Like, I mean, literally, like North Carolina at least looks the part most years. Kansas looks the part and plays the part, and I think early in the season they kind of missed Azubuike a lot. The guy that was, I think they kept the stat on like he set the school record for dunks. I didn't know that was a stat, but like just an insane amount of dunks. But Kansas is just really. I mean, I think Virginia is good enough to win. I like Kansas here.
Yeah. Look,
you could
be right, man. You could be. But I'm gonna take the Who's. I'm gonna take
Iowa there.
Cavaliers. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna move over. So we've got our first Final Four pick. We're gonna move over to the the South bracket, top right corner of if you're looking at your bracket. We'll start with the number one.
I like this.
Number one seed over there. Baylor taking on Hartford. Where they come from?
I mean, like, isn't that a hockey team, Hartford Whalers?
Yeah. The Hawks coming out of nowhere, making their tournament debut.
Are they from let me guess, American, what is it? What's it called? The American East? Is that right?
So yeah, I believe that's right.
The same conference that produces the Boston Terriers, maybe?
I believe that's right. Yeah, I believe that's right.
Hartford, how about that first appearance? You get to go and take on maybe the most athletic team in the country, and Scott Drew's Baylor Bears. Maceo Teague, a guy that we should highlight here, started his career at UNC Asheville, was the freshman of the year at the Big South, and now is maybe the best player on Baylor's team.
I mean, the Baylor's good. Had they not lost a couple games, they probably could have been the number one overall.
They lost Oklahoma State, and then regular season, did they lose to Oklahoma State twice? Who else did Baylor lose to?
Let's see. They lost to Kansas.
Yeah, of course, my Final Four.
And lost to Oklahoma State.
So, Baylor wins this one fairly easily.
Yeah, Baylor wins easily.
Tip of the cap to Hartford, though.
Yeah, you got to give it up for the Hawks to tournament debut. All right, so we got Baylor going. What about North Carolina, Wisconsin? I think this is a very interesting matchup. The Heels have been playing really well of late. Unfortunately for them, they ran into a really good Florida State team the other night.
How did North Carolina do against Virginia this year? I don't know off the top of my head, but I say that because the foundation of Wisconsin's program is built.
They lost by 12.
Okay, so I'm not a basketball coach, but I'm assuming that Roy Williams will pull the Virginia tape, and they're very similar to Wisconsin in some of the things that they do and try to slow down the game and make it a very defensive, kind of grimy type game. That's because Dick Bennett is Tony Bennett's father. And he's kind of the one that started the renaissance of Wisconsin basketball. Back in 2000, I think they made the Final Four. And so, that it's like a 6 degree of separation thing. So I think North Carolina will probably pull that film. I think North Carolina wins over Wisconsin. because of the familiarity of Virginia. And I know that makes no sense, but the way they're playing right now, I just think that their big men would match up with
Yeah, I
Wisconsin.
think the big men. I think the three big guys that North Carolina has. I think that's what I mean. They played outstanding in the ACC tournament for a team that didn't play well at all in the regular season. They got it go. Roy Williams got it going there late, and then in the ACC tournament, I like them to get a win against Wisconsin, but I think that's all the Tar Heels get is one win in this tournament. They get to the second round, but I don't see them matching up well against Baylor in the second round.
I actually think it'll be a very good game because one of the things that matches athleticism well is what North Carolina has, and that's like I don't know off the top of my head what where they rank nationally in rebounding, but apparently they're just an absolute beast of a matchup for people because of Baycott and
Yeah, that's true.
He's just like
that Williams kid is starting to play.
The big 7-footer, yeah, that guy's everywhere, and so I think that like that alone will give Baylor trouble. I think where Baylor wins the game though is they have a few more players. That's crazy to say that, but North Carolina is always deep. But this is the different North Carolina team in makeup. Remember those Roy Williams teams that you always had to be worried about getting out in transition with guys like Raymond Felton, and just were so quick up the floor, and Ty Lawson. It's really different now. If you look at their point guard play, they've almost become like in a lot of ways, like a Wisconsin, where they'll grind you out like a Big Ten team.
Yeah,
but I think the athleticism and shooting ability of Baylor from long range favors them.
I like Baylor there as well. So we got Baylor, North Carolina in the second round, and then I'm assuming both of us have Baylor going on to the Sweet 16 from there, beating North Carolina. What about these bottom two games here? Got a South Carolina team, John Winthrop out of Rock Hill, taking on Nova in the 5-12 matchup. Look, Winthrop, they haven't played. They have not played a.
I'm gonna tell you right.
This will be their first top 25 matchup all year.
They're gonna win.
I think so too. I like
Winthrop, and I saw them play Furman, and Furman's a good basketball. Like Furman could have very well beat Alabama, and Winthrop just absolutely blasted no, Furman didn't play well, but Winthrop was a better basketball team, in my opinion. Having said that, on a good day, Furman may have won that game, but Winthrop, they interestingly enough, they beat a UNCG team that's a SoCon champion, and that game is actually closer on the scoreboard than it seemed watching it. So I like Winthrop here, and I think this might be the best Winthrop team. There have been a lot of good ones. This might be the best one.
How about this? How about this stat, John? 5 seeds have only won 64% of the meetings between 5-12 in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And the last tournament, 2019, 3 of the 4 number 12s beat the number 5s.
Wow. Jeez.
It's going to happen again.
So, 3 out of 4, that's pretty strong, right? I just think, and I've thought Pat Kelsey does such a tremendous job there as the head coach, and really they've been really lucky to hang on to him.
Yeah.
And I think he's a really good, like, as a person, I don't know him, but like just from how he talks, I think a lot of him as a person. So I like Winthrop. And I'll be, honestly, I like Jay Wright. I think he's a class act at Villanova. I think he's a very good basketball coach and has a very talented, he always has talented teams. Villanova has become really a juggernaut under his, reign as head coach. But I just like Winthrop here. Partly because Villanova relies a lot on the 3, and that could hurt them against a team like Winthrop.
Yeah, I like Winthrop there. And then John, we've got what is that, 4
Like
4-13 matchup between Purdue and North Texas. Look, I saw Clemson play the Boilermakers early on in the
they
year.
got a big man that's really good.
That was a
Purdue.
great game when Clemson beat Purdue. It was a low scoring game.
Who is that? Who's the 7'4" guy that Purdue has? That was like just a beast. Like if anybody could match up with Luke Garza, it's that guy.
It's that. Purdue's good, man. I really like this Boilermakers team. I don't think they'll have any trouble against North Texas. No disrespect.
I think they win. I mean, North Texas is good, but I think Purdue wins. I think this is under the radar program. The Boilermakers are always seemingly good. They're sort of like Iowa in football under Kirk Ferentz. Like you're never really going to get a bad Purdue team.
True.
They're kind of built that way. They're not guys. They're not going to put guys in one and dones in the NBA all the time. But what they're going to do is they're going to get good players and develop good players. And so Purdue moves on. I guess just saying that could be a lower seed team that makes a little bit of a run here.
Yep, I agree. So Purdue going to take on Winthrop.
I actually think that'd be a good game. I just think Purdue wins because of size.
You think Purdue's going to take down Winthrop in the second round?
I do, but I think it's a very good basketball. I mean, I think it's one of those games that comes down to probably the last 10 minutes, and just Purdue kind of grounds it out.
Call me crazy. I'm gonna take Winthrop.
I would say it was crazy pick.
I think Winthrop. I think Winthrop could match up well. Look, I mean, I don't know.
That's not like an outlandish pick, because if you look at, I don't know, if you pull up Winthrop's stats, they've got the kid inside, the transfer, the 4-star from Tennessee. That's an intriguing matchup if Purdue, is able to match, get in that game. That's a big time player that they've got to match up there, and a guy that started his career at Tennessee. A lot of people thought when Josh Ferguson graduated at Winthrop last year that maybe, I think they returned 4 starters, if I'm not mistaken, this year, other than Ferguson, but he was like the player of the year.
Yeah.
And they brought in a junior college transfer at point guard, Valdrin, the guy that's their point guard, Chandler Valdrin. I'm telling you, that
he's had 3 triple doubles this year for the Eagles.
Dude's and he's like 6'8". He's a point guard. He's like Jalen Rose size.
Huge. Yeah.
So I think, I could see Winthrop winning because there's not many guards that do what he does. Like that's a problem for anyone.
Yeah, I just think Winthrop would match up well against Purdue in that game. Not to say that Purdue couldn't win. I think Purdue. I probably a 1 possession game, to be quite honest. A couple free throws probably inside the game, but I don't know. I'm just going to roll with Winthrop to take on Baylor in the Elite Eight, in the Sweet 16. But all that being said, I think Baylor-Winthrop matchup there, but Baylor's too strong. Baylor will get to the Elite Eight.
I guess I would have Baylor-Purdue, but yeah, I agree. I think Baylor moves on. Because of, they just shoot it so well, and they're so athletic.
So that will take us to the bottom of the South region with the 6-11 game Texas Tech, who just a couple of years ago, man, they were right there taking on Utah State back in the tournament here.
Texas Tech, if you remember back in 2019, that Chris Beard had this team in the final game. I mean, Texas Tech was thought of as maybe a football school. Certainly made some strides under Sonny Lubick there. Anyway, and Utah State's weird. They're always good. That's a strong league. The Mount West is another league that probably didn't get enough credit. Texas Tech, Matt McClung is a guy that the nation is ready to be introduced to. obviously those who follow college basketball know a lot about him, but he's actually from I think I want to say it's like Bristol, Virginia, or like right there in the Tri-Cities near East Tennessee State. ETSU recruited him hard, and I know he ended. He started his career at Georgetown, but now he's made a buzzer beater this year. I like Texas Tech to win a close one over Utah State.
Yeah, I agree. I think Texas Tech. I don't think it's actually an easy win. I think Utah State probably gives them a heck of a game, but I think Texas Tech gets started, on the right foot with a win against Utah State. Look, Utah State, they're no, they're not bad. They're very good out there in that Mountain West Conference and played BYU. I mean, down to the wire earlier on this year.
Yeah, and two very good teams. There's some basketball a lot of people miss out on the West Coast because we're so East Coast centric in everything we do. But that's a team I wouldn't. The way Utah State defends you, that's a team I would not want to face. And it's going to be that's going to be one of the. I'm going to go out and make a bold prediction. That game's going to be one of the lowest scoring games of the first round.
You think the Texas Tech Utah State game is going to be a lower scoring game?
That's going to be your 60s, 62 to 58 type game.
Yeah, I could see that. Neither offense really. You said McClung. McClung will have I think a decent performance, but
yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah,
he's very athletic. If you go on YouTube and pull up some of his dunk videos, it's crazy.
So we got Texas Tech moving on. Number 3 seed Arkansas taking on Colgate. I think this is probably no problem for the Razorbacks. Look,
you think they brush past Colgate?
Yeah, I mean, look, Patriot League champions, Colgate 14-1, not a bad year for the Raiders, but I just don't see them.
You're saying the days of a Donald Foyle are long gone for Colgate.
I just don't see them matching up well against Arkansas.
I don't either. I think Arkansas rolls Razorback fashion here.
All right, which brings us to a very intriguing matchup in the 7-10 game on this side, John, the Florida-Virginia Tech game.
There's a little background
here. We know what Virginia Tech can do. I mean, they're good.
Mike White is a very good coach at Florida, and they played a lot of people tough. They've gotten I think they've gotten better as the season's progressed. I mean, they had to overcome a guy who is the preseason player of the year. I think is it Keyshawn Williams? Is that his name? That almost died on the court. And at that time,
Keontae Johnson.
Keontae Johnson. Yeah. At that time, you didn't even know whether it was related to COVID, whether the basketball season might be shut down. And he makes it. I mean, it takes incredible mental toughness to overcome that loss, not only just on the court, but like as a human being, as your teammate and brother on the court for Florida. I think that says a lot about them to recover and get a 7 seed. And Mike White as a head coach, Mike Young, a head coach on the other side, who had the ACC Coach of the Year. But you might could have given, if Nate Oates didn't win that, probably could give it to Florida's Mike White, couldn't you?
Yeah, probably. You taking the Gators?
I'm taking Mike Young and Virginia Tech. I like Mike White, and I think he's a very good basketball coach. I just think
they're not so fast, my friend.
I just think that Virginia Tech's got some absolute dudes. I mean,
dude, that
Keve Aluma.
Yeah, Keve Aluma. I was going to bring him up. I think he's the player.
Wofford guy. Wofford's got people all over the NCAA tournament right now.
Thor Murphy headed up the Blacksburg.
Headed up there, and then you got Chavez Goodwin at USC. Yeah. So I mean,
I like it. I like the pick. I like the Hokies as well to get a first round win over Florida. Not to say that Florida.
I said, I mean, if they had Keontae Johnson, maybe. Who knows what seed they could have been.
Yeah, I do. I like the Hokies here too, John. I think they match up well. And I think they'll move on. Second round take on Ohio State. Ohio State taking on Oral Roberts. in the 2:15 game.
Don't look
State,
past
man.
Oral Roberts. I'm gonna tell you, that's a good basketball team. The way they beat some good, that's another league with South Dakota State. You know, they get the buzzer beater win there. That's a league in mid-major ranks that's solid. But
Yeah.
I like Ohio State. I think it's pretty decent ball game though.
All right, so we agree on all of those games. All right, so Arkansas, Texas Tech.
God, this might be the most. This could be the most fascinating.
Old Southwest Conference from the 80s.
You've got a team in Arkansas who's coached by Nate Musselman, who, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities to Arkansas and Alabama. Alabama shoots a few more threes, but they both like to get possessions and get points. Texas Tech is more like, we're just going to defend you. Like,
yes.
2019, I think Texas Tech was like second or third in field goal percentage and scoring defense, which made it a weird matchup in the championship because you had two low-scoring teams. Which one wins out here? Nate Musselman?
I think the team that can score. I'm going with the Razorbacks. I think they put up enough points against Texas. I don't think Texas Tech's making a run this year. I don't. I like the backs.
I like the Razorbacks too. The way they've been playing, they've won 10 or 11 in a row in the SEC down the stretch. I like Arkansas, but it's an intriguing matchup.
It is an intriguing matchup. Scoring versus defense. Who's gonna win out? And then we've got a Virginia Tech Ohio State matchup, which has proven to be a good game on the football field, like past 5 years or like 5 years.
Chris, these are two guys. You got Mike Young, start his career. Now check me on this. I'm pretty sure this is right. This is going to be an intriguing thing that like no one probably knows about. So Chris Holtmann used to be the coach at Gardner-Webb, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Holtmann's assistant was Jay McCauley. Jay McCauley is now the head coach at Wofford.
Okay.
Mike Young used to be the head coach at Wofford, hired McCauley. So I want to say Holtmann and McCauley were on the same staff at Gardner-Webb. So, like, that's an interesting twist. I wonder if anyone picked up on that. I'm sure, like, Jay Billows or somebody, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Like, I can't say it for certain, but, like, I'm pretty sure Chris Holtmann was hired Jay McCauley, if memory serves me correctly.
Well, yeah, Chris Holtmann was at Gardner-Webb, 2010 2013. Then he was the Butler assistant and then the Butler coach for a couple of years before moving over to Ohio State.
So, and then Jay McCauley, Gardner-Webb. So you got to think they're trading war stories on this, right? I mean,
probably,
gotta be, right? Jay McCauley, one of the good guys. So, yeah, okay. So, boys, Gardner-Webb men's basketball Friday. Jay McCauley, and he might have been afterwards because I'm not up on my Gardner-Webb history, but like, okay, prior to joining the Wofford staff in 2008, okay. Maybe I want to say he was hired by Chris Holtmann. I think that's right. So if that happens, that's a totally cool thing.
Yeah. Interesting how the coaching circles weave and intertwine around college basketball. Should be a good game.
I like
the Buckeyes.
I like Virginia Tech. Shocker, right?
You are. That is shocking. I just think Ohio State's one of the strongest teams. They come from the best conference, in my opinion. They're one of the strongest teams in that conference.
Like, I feel like Mike Young is like a veteran, but no one knows about. Like he should have been discovered like a long time ago. Yeah. I mean, like Wofford was fortunate in today's age to get him for what they paid him. I mean, come on. You know, I think he was making like $150. He was the lowest paid coach in the SoCon. when Virginia Tech increased it by like 30-fold.
If he beats Ohio State and makes it to the Sweet 16, he'll get a pay raise there in Blacksburg.
So
I don't see it
yeah,
happening. Man. I don't see it. I like the Buckeyes. I do. I don't see anybody.
I and like Ohio State's been one of those programs. This is another interesting thing about this matchup. Thad Matta was a guy that was an assistant at Western Carolina. Was a few years back. It was a coach at Ohio State, but so they've had a good success rate of picking like diamonds in the like people that maybe that didn't know that only would know basketball. Like I feel like Mike Young's kind of that kind of guy too, even though he took Wofford, to places he'd never been. So it's a great coaching matchup. I'm just going to go Virginia Tech.
All right. So you've got a Baylor. No, excuse me. You got an Arkansas, Virginia Tech.
Another intriguer.
Sweet 16 matchup. I've got an Arkansas, Ohio State Sweet 16 matchup.
So then you got Nate Musselman and Mike Young. Nate Musselman comes from Nevada. Like they were making noise kind of around the time Wofford was.
Yeah.
Two of the guys that are new to power conference schools.
So you are you going to take the Hokies or the Razorbacks in an ACC SEC showdown in the Sweet 16?
I'm going Virginia Tech.
Oh, you've got Tech making it to the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Do they beat Baylor? Or is that where that's where Baylor ends the run? All right, so you do have Baylor in the Final Four.
Yes.
Okay. I've got Ohio State beating Arkansas in the Sweet 16.
But this region just fascinates me.
It does. I've got a Baylor Ohio State Elite Eight, but Baylor's going on. Baylor Final Four.
A lot of good coaches in this. If you had to give an award to like coaches that have just made it, like think about this. Chris Beard started at like what a Division III school or some crazy.
Yeah.
Like these people are people that like couldn't pay their power bill when they got started. Like that's what is like great about college basketball when you look into the backstories on these guys.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun, man. I don't know. I'm intrigued.
This is by far my favorite bracket.
I'm intrigued by the East bracket. We're going to start there, the top of the East bracket, with the number 1 seed Michigan Wolverines. They'll take on the winner of Mount St. Mary, and then Texas Southern.
Texas Southern. Okay. So I went Mount St. Mary's. You went Texas Southern.
I went Texas Southern, but either way, I think Michigan wins.
Michigan, yeah. And I don't, this next game is fascinating because
I don't know who to pick here.
St. Bonaventure has been a program climbing the Atlantic 10 ladder, which if you pay attention, it's been a struggle for them to get back where they were in the early 2000s when I believe they lost on the last possession to Kentucky. That was back when Kentucky had like Tayshaun Prince and some of those guys that were so good. So it's a program that really fell on hard times, had some NCAA violations, but it's had a good history and pedigree. John Ben Beredikoff was the coach there for a while and had some success. And then he might have been the guy that got him in trouble. I'm not sure, but like they always have good guards. They get a lot of those guys out of like Queens, New York. They recruit that area really well. They're going to be a problem for LSU. And quite honestly, I think they beat LSU.
I do. I guess I do. I had a tough time. I'm over here looking at the stats and looking, at the matchup between these two schools. I think I've got to lean St. Bonaventure too because their defense is solid.
Yeah.
LSU,
they're like really athletic too.
LSU can score, but St. Bonaventure's defense is probably
that's such a good league, man. I mean, the teams in that league are just. It's baffling to me that we don't talk about them as a major I guess, and some people do. I kind of consider that a major conference to me.
Yeah.
Um, because if you look at the recruiting footprint of where they're getting guys, I mean, like you're getting guys out of the metropolitan New York area, where if that's one of like the 3 or 4 places in the country, Atlanta being another, Orlando
Yep.
being another, that you're going to get just great talent. And St. Bonaventure recruits that um, area as well as anybody. Stony Brook's another one that's kind of like an outlier as a mid major that recruits it really well. So I think St. Bonaventure has enough matchup guys to beat LSU.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. What about this one, John? How about Colorado and a Georgetown team that just took the Big East?
Man, I mean, these are two teams playing really good basketball. I know Colorado lost to Oregon State in I guess, the championship game of the Pac-12. But wow, I mean, it's almost like when they didn't let Patrick Ewing into Madison Square Garden without seeing some like ID. That just like made
Yeah.
Georgetown mad. And it's like, all right, you're just
Yeah.
gonna like, the best player that's ever probably played in this place, routinely, you're just not gonna recognize the 7'2" guy. And he's one of the most recognizable figures in
Oh,
NBA
absolutely.
history. I mean,
Absolutely.
and one of the best defensive players, but like he doesn't get enough credit for what he did offensively. I think Georgetown's playing with a little chip right now. I mean, that gave them an edge. And this time of year, quite honestly, what is everybody looking for? Especially in a year where COVID's plagued us. Everybody's looking for an edge.
True.
Georgetown's got that. And and I think they win this game. I think this is another 12-5 upset.
You like the Hoyas?
Yes. I mean, because you go back and look at
Mm,
Georgetown's schedule. They beat Villanova, but they played everybody tough. I mean, they've been right there in a lot of close games.
I'm going to go with the Buffs. I think they've had a fantastic.
I mean, I could see this one going either way. I just, I'm going on like who's playing, well at the right time.
Yeah. I like the Buffs. I'm going to go Colorado. Georgetown's had look, the run they had in the Big East tournament was, just fantastic. What Patrick Ewing has done for them is amazing. But Colorado's also had a fantastic year, I feel like. And I'm going to take the Buffs over the Hoyas. Now, John, the big question. Where does the SoCon? How far does the SoCon champion make it? UNC Greensboro.
What's the obvious backdrop to this matchup, though? There's the ACC tie-in with Wes Miller being the head coach at UNC Greensboro, going up against the coach that maybe the most underrated coach at a football school. I mean, Leonard, is it Leonard Hamilton? Is that right? Has been. I mean, I think there's been a long shadow cast over him throughout his career as a head coach at Florida State. I think he's underrated. I think there's a lot of good coaches, but like to do what he's done at Florida State is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and look, they were just so close to winning the ACC tournament last night.
Yeah, and I want to say that UNC Greensboro, because I'm obviously a SoCon fan, so like I want to say that they could. I just think this is a bad matchup.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good
match. Had UNC Greensboro got like a Wisconsin or somebody else like that, I think they would have been better off to where they could assert their athleticism, because they are athletic. They're very athletic. They're not the best shooting team in the world, but they make up for it in the way they defend you and the athletes they have. That being said, Florida State is also ultra athletic, and what they can do off the dribble, even though they lost last night to Georgia Tech, I think that Florida State gets a win. I'm not sure, but like what the margin will be, but I could see it being double digits, but I could also see UNCG keeping this very close. But I just think Florida State has too much.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I like the Noles to win. Pretty. I'm not gonna say comfortably, but I think Florida State wins by maybe 2 possessions, 4 points, 5 points, something like that.
Yeah.
So we've got a Michigan St. Bonaventure matchup in the second round.
Bonnies and Wolverines. I don't even know what a Bonnie. What is a Bonnie? Is that like a?
No idea.
I'm thinking like bonbons or something. Like I don't know what a Bonnie is, but they're not beating the Wolverines probably.
No. I don't think so. Like Michigan to go on there. So you've got Florida State, Georgetown. Did the Hoyas?
I want to say they probably faced each other in the tournament before, back when Bob Sura and Alonzo Mourning were around. But
I got Colorado, Florida State. Either way, I think Florida State gets on and plays Michigan in the.
I do too. I agree. Florida State, Michigan. They've played in football before.
They have.
Yeah, and
so if they're going to meet. So if they're going to meet in the Sweet 16,
two teams that have just deplorable football programs now. Just kidding.
Actually, Michigan probably still has the better of the two.
Well, yeah, they probably win a football matchup now, but I think Florida State actually, I mean, maybe it was during the Brady Hoke era, like absolutely annihilated Michigan, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think very good basketball game. I think Michigan wins.
Yeah.
I wonder. This might be the first game where they see the effects of Isaiah Livers not being. I don't know how long that is, but I guess he's done for the year. So this might be the first matchup they encounter that. However, I think they just barely have enough to overcome Florida State.
Yeah, I agree. Michigan making it to the Elite Eight out of that top part of the East.
So what kind of story would it be if Juwan Howard made it to the Final Four as a player at Michigan and then coached Michigan to the Final Four and perhaps won a national championship, which is nothing he never did as a player.
Yeah, that's an awesome story if he's able to succeed at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, John, bottom half of the East bracket here. We got BYU. They're taking on the winner of the Michigan State UCLA game. I want to say that we both thought UCLA was the better of the teams there. Do you like UCLA to upset BYU? Because I'll tell you what, I think I like
BYU.
Oh, really? You're going to go BYU there?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that, given what they get, they've got good caliber players. They're one of the best teams bar none on the West Coast. I mean, you can put them in any conference out there, and they'd finish top 2 or 3. They shoot the ball so well, so I think they get the victory there.
Wow, I'm actually going to take the Bruins. I'm going to actually make a little upset run for
upset special
for UCLA. I like.
You might want to save that for the. I won't say that Abilene Christian is going to win that game, but I'm tell you what, that's a good basketball team. I wouldn't want to beat Texas.
You think Texas might have a little? You think Texas will win, but they might.
I think Texas wins. I think it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Right, I just think, and if they by some, I think they're the Wildcats or something. They do win. Like a lot of people would be shocked. It wouldn't be as shocking to me because they're very good.
Yeah.
And this is a team that I think has 4 or 5 senior starters, if I'm not mistaken. And they've all been around playing together. That's where you get a team like that against the Texas that, has a lot of guys that are transitioning in and out. That's a problem. Abilene Christian is a problem. So I'm going to pick Texas, but I don't feel great about it.
I mean, I like Texas too, but you're saying that Abilene Christian's going to give them a tough time.
Yeah, they're
Right,
just
in a BYU.
They've played like 800 games together.
Yeah.
So like,
All right. For you in a BYU Texas second round, do you like the Horns or the Cougs?
I actually think that's the easier matchup for Texas. I do think BYU is very good, but like size wise and just I think athleticism wise, I think Abilene Christian actually has better athletes maybe than BYU does. But BYU's they shoot the ball so well. So I think Texas wins. They survive Abilene Christian, get past BYU, and move on to Sweet 16.
I like Texas to get by Abilene Christian and then beating UCLA to get to the Sweet 16. So we both got the Horns there going to the Sweet 16. John, this one's a head scratcher to me. I'm not really sure who matches up better in this 7-10 game, Uconn or Maryland. It's just a tough one. I feel like it's
Uconn. It's been a minute, hasn't it? Like
it has been.
Wasn't Kevin Ollie the last coach that like cut down the nets there when they had Kimball Walker? I mean, and they've been like they went and hid somewhere. Because remember, UConn was the program that thought they were going to be a football power at one point. Remember that? Like, and they like totally threw in the towel on basketball, and they're like, "We don't want to be in the Big East anymore. We're making this move to the American because we love football." Well, that backfired like worse than any dodge dart ever has or whatever. And so Maryland's another team that's like had a conference identity issue.
Yep.
Coach Turgeon is. I always feel like Maryland is out of place in the Big Ten. Like most of their tradition.
Especially in football.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, but like even in basketball, there's no like Maryland wants somebody to be their rival, and like nobody wants to be Maryland's rival.
Rutgers can be their rival.
Right, exactly. Those are the two oddest teams in that conference. By that measure, UConn has been on the road to recovery as a program, and I think they win this game. There's been a lot more positives about UConn this year than Maryland.
Yeah, I ended up going with the Huskies there as well to get a first round win, and then Alabama, the SEC tournament champions. They're going to get by Iona. Rick Pitino's Iona squad's going to make it to the tournament.
Despite all the SEC notebooks that Pitino might have left over in his, attic. Let's use that where have collected dust of matchups with Wimp Sanderson and guys like that over the years. It's not going to work here because Alabama's just too good. And they may, they'll shoot 53s and probably make 25 of them. But
absolutely,
they win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I like Alabama there. So we both have Alabama against UConn in the second round, where I think that's an easy win for Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty. I actually agree with you. I think it's not going to be very close, but I think UConn does enough with a win that they're saying they're back for recruiting purposes to get back where they need to be as far as a basketball program. Continue to admit they screwed up. So didn't UConn's football coach leave to go to Maryland at one point? Wasn't it Edsel? Randy Edsel.
And now
there's a whole backdrop that nobody's considered.
And now
somebody had to have thought of that and watched this,
Yeah. So we've got a matchup between the 2009 football.
He went from UConn to Maryland back to UConn.
He left the program worse off after he left than now they're back.
Like he literally went back to UConn and they're almost FCS bound now or something.
So in the Sweet 16, we've got a matchup between the 2009 national championship game in football, Texas and Alabama.
Ooh, a little Colt McCoy game
where he got injured. John Parker. No, it
was. Yeah, he was a nightmare.
It wasn't John Parker. It was
It's the dude that works at SEC Network.
Yeah.
Right? What's his name? Not McCoy. God, name escapes me, but like
We
I know
know.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
good quarterback, just never.
yeah.
Greg
Greg
McElroy.
McElroy. That's
There
it.
we
Greg
go.
McElroy. All right. So
So
you like Bama here, or you like the Horns to move on to the Elite
I like an interesting coaching matchup. Shaka Smart, who obviously came from Clemson. NATO, Alabama. Nate Oates is a guy that kind of made his way from a very good mid-major in Buffalo, similar to Shaka Smart, who was at VCU. They, you know, Alabama's not a team that I don't know how much pressure. I'm trying to think of somebody that presses a lot, and because Shaka Smart will get you. They don't. Texas doesn't do that like they did at VCU, but they will do that like segments of the game. So I actually think Alabama wins this game because I think Buffalo was very similar to what VCU was at one point. So his knowledge of that will help overcome a very good coach in Shaka Smart, and Alabama moves on.
We're going to agree. I like the Tide. I can't believe I said that. As a Clemson fan in football, but what a crazy year it's been for Alabama sports. I mean, look, football, best team in the country in football.
Crazy. It's been like Florida in
Yeah,
mid 2000s or 2010.
I think they get by Texas too. Unfortunately, that means I've got them, and I think we both have them meeting up with Michigan in the Elite Eight, John. And I do not like that matchup for Alabama at all.
No, I mean I don't because that like
I'm going to go
Michigan defends the three as well as they shoot it, and so like that's a problem. And
yes.
So I like Michigan here,
Yes.
but that's one of those things that where I'm not going to say they win by double digits, but like I wouldn't shock me because of the way Michigan is structured, even without Livers. I think they're hard to shoot over, and they've got a lot of guys. They're just long, and that's going to give Alabama some problems.
Yep. So we both like Michigan to make it to the Final Four, in which you think they're going to play Kansas. I think they're going to play Virginia. We'll get to the Final Four here in just a little bit. We still got one more bracket to go through, John. It's the Midwest bracket, and we'll start up at the top. The number 1 seed, Illinois, fighting Illini, taking on Drexel.
Yeah, what's the guy? Kobe Coburn or whatever his name is. Kofi Coburn. Big man. It seems like that the Big Ten has like all the like big men in the country.
Yeah,
like, literally. He's a problem, just like Lou Garza is a problem. Like so. There's so many of those guys. I think what's the guy Robinson from Michigan that's very good. I think is his name. Wagner. I think that's another guy. So. Yeah, I mean, like the Big Ten's got so many of those guys. That's why they drill Drexel in the opener out of the CAA.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think Illinois has any troubles really against Drexel, against the Dragons in the first round. The matchup I'm really looking forward to is the Ramblers against the ACC tournament champion Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets.
Like, what is Josh Pastner doing with that? Is he like a welder now? What is he doing with that mask? Like he looks like Darth Vader or something.
Yes.
I mean, like I know coaches wear it, but his is like huge. I mean, I get his like covers like his whole torso. Anyway,
it's amazing.
What did Jay Billis call him earlier? Like a hockey player or something. Like it was something hilarious. But so yeah, interesting matchup here. Porter Moser is actually related to one of my good friends. So Porter Moser is the head coach at Loyola Chicago, obviously. Famous a few years ago for that Final Four run. So his wife, that's her cousin. So kind of cool story there, but just because I'm not a big Josh Pastner fan, and I am a pretty big Porter Moser fan, and I do like Cameron Krautwig and the problems he can cause as a big man. Those are guys. Some of these guys have been together. If you look at Williamson, another good player, I had a chance to see him play at Furman here a few years ago, even though Furman won that game by 24 points 2 years ago. They're very good. I mean, this is a good basketball team. Loyola's primed for a win here, and I don't think this game's very close. I think they drill Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I actually like the Ramblers too. Sister Jean going to get the Ramblers.
Yeah. She's like 109 now.
Yeah, she's going to get the Ramblers to the second round. I like Loyola Chicago there as well.
Let's make sure. I mean, like she had to have gotten the COVID vaccine like the first day.
You would hope so, right?
You would hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
So she could be at the tournament, right?
Yes. John, this is an interesting SEC Pac-12 matchup with the 5-12 game. Tennessee.
A lot of orange.
Yeah, a lot of orange.
Got Corvallis versus Knoxville.
Two different shades of orange, so it'll be bright for sure.
What happened to Tennessee? Like, really, they were a national title favorite coming into the season, prohibitive favorite to win the SEC, and now they're a 5 seed. I mean, and I like Rick Barnes a lot. I do. I mean, I think he's one of the best coaches out there. Something about the mix of players and COVID and everything they've had. They've been so good defensively. I think they beat Oregon State. I'm just asking the question, what happened to them?
Yeah, it's been a bizarre year for Tennessee because they're 18-8. I mean, this is a team that lost to Ole Miss twice, or lost by 2, didn't lose twice, but then just got drilled by LSU, lost twice to Alabama, which, I mean, that's not a surprise. I mean, I guess it would be coming into the year, but
yeah,
knowing what we know now, I mean, that's not really a surprise. But yeah, Tennessee will win, I think.
Just because they defend pretty well. They gave Alabama a good run yesterday.
I think Oregon State
they shoot it well.
Gives them a game, though.
How about Oregon State was picked last in the Pac-12 and in the NCAA? They won the tournament.
Yeah,
like they probably literally knocked out like Colorado State or somebody. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been in. Leave it at the Pac-12 to screw up everything every year.
Yes.
What a bizarre league.
And then Oklahoma State taking on Liberty.
Very good Oklahoma State team.
Yeah, they are very good.
They have probably, other than Luke Garza, maybe the best NBA prospect in the country. And a guy that can maybe take a team further than normally they would go, if that makes sense. A lot of people are saying he's the best. He's going to be the top pick. Is it Cunningham? Is that his name? I think that's right. But very good player. I mean, I watched him play a couple of times, and he's like one of those guys that can do a variety of different things. I mean, you talk about like in baseball, like say like a 5-tool baseball player. He's sort of like that, and for basketball, and he rebounds, he shoots, and he's a guy that you can put the game on his back as a young guy, and he can win it. So, I think he gives them that X factor. I think that he gives them the potential to go a good ways in this tournament. So,
yeah, I like Oklahoma State there against Liberty. So that puts. So we both in this top part of the Midwest bracket, we both like Illinois and Loyola Chicago to face off in the second round, and we like Tennessee and an Oklahoma State game in the second round. Look, Loyola Chicago, I think, could give Illinois a little bit of a
Illinois, they're going to have. I think they could. The great part of this matchup if you look at so Underwood's rebuilt that program there, but like look at the center. I think it's Kofi Coburn
Yep.
against Cameron Crowig, as that's not a mouth-watering matchup for like NBA scouts because like
Yeah.
these are two of the better big men in basketball right here, and both like so polar opposites in the way they play the game. And
That being said, I think Illinois does
I think they win. I
find a
just
way to
don't think
win.
it's easy.
No, I don't think. I think Loyola Chicago is going to give anybody they play a tough game. I mean, I just think that's just the type
Cade
of team they
Cunningham. I
are.
said Josh Cunningham. Cade
Cade
Cunningham is
Cunningham.
Yeah.
So I like Illinois there to win as well. And John, I may surprise you here, but I'm going to go Oklahoma State beats Tennessee in the second round to face Illinois.
I agree. Oklahoma State. I think Cade Cunningham, which makes for a fascinating matchup. With Illinois, I think Coburn. Illinois has been a team that's kind of they drilled Duke, and they've been every bit. You see teams that are advertised haven't been good in a while.
Yeah.
I think about this is a weird comparison, but like back in 1997, Arizona was like number 2 in the nation, and they just completely face planted on football in that regard. Similar, but like Illinois was supposed to be a national championship favorite, and they've lived up to it. Like they won the Big Ten tournament, and they were one of the best teams in the Big Ten all year. Obviously, they argued that point. I guess they had a percentage points on for the Big Ten or whatever, but Illinois is very good. Oklahoma State is very good too. I mean, these are two of the best. This is going to be one of the best games of the tournament. But
yeah, I like an Oklahoma State. I like Illinois Oklahoma State game in the Sweet 16, but I think Illinois gets the better of the Cowboys and makes it to the Elite Eight. I think Illinois is a little stronger in that aspect,
especially in the paint. Yeah,
yeah. Kofi Cockburn is. I mean,
he's a player, man. He might be the best. He might, like we all say, it's probably maybe Lugar, a variety of different players, which is strange that they would have so many good players. Like most of the time, it's like Zion Williamson and like everybody else. Or this year, you literally have guys all over the country you can make an argument
for. Yeah. So we've got Illinois making it to the Elite Eight. They're in the in the Midwest bracket, the top portion there. In the bottom portion of the Midwest, we'll start San Diego State, Syracuse. Look, Syracuse is a team that just got in really by the skin of their teeth because they beat North Carolina State in the ACC tournament. I think that's what got them in the tournament here, John.
No 11-6 upset. I'm going San Diego State. They're good.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think Buddy Boeheim.
You don't think Buddy's getting on fire?
I don't think. No, look, San Diego State's got a heck of a defense, man.
Yeah, they're good, man.
They are.
I mean, they got some. Dude, you talk about a team that's got some athletes and dudes. They do.
Yeah, I like the Aztecs to win there, and then no surprise, I'm going West Virginia.
Yeah,
in a big win over Morehead State.
Yeah, I agree. Even though Morehead State's a good story, they've rebuilt that program. They used to be good back in the early to mid '90s, falling on, but they were kind of the shock team in the OVC, right? Most people thought Belmont. A lot of people thought Austin Peay coming into the year. Under Matt Figger, his head coach, who was the coach of the year, I believe, in the OVC last year. That being said, Morehead State's the only one still standing. Belmont left out of the tournament. But all that said, I like West Virginia.
All right, I'm going to skip the 7-10 game real quick. We're going to go down to Houston, Cleveland State, where, look, the Vikings get in, have a good year, but I think Houston, the Cougs are going to get a win in the first round. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland State pushes them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are a team that have had moments in the past. I think Rolly Massimino was the head coach there at one point, who led Villanova to the 1985 national championship. But that was obviously towards the latter part of his career. But Cleveland State's had some tradition. That being said, Kelvin Sampson and Houston roll here.
And then John Clemson, they get into the dance. They didn't have a good performance in the ACC championship tournament, but they're here. They take on Rutgers.
I'm still deciding. I guess Rutgers sport now is basketball, but it changes every 5 years, or 10, or when I don't know. Like back in 2009, like they were like a football power at some point, and they were playing like South Florida to get in like these big bowl games. Whatever happened there, I don't know. But yeah. So like their basketball program was just as awful at one point.
Yeah,
And they've rebuilt that thing.
they have.
From the ground up, and it's been really impressive. There's a lot of cool stories coming out of the Big Ten, and I know we talk about Rutgers and Maryland kind of being the awkward teams, but Clemson is very similar. I think Clemson had, if you look at, we talk about a lot because obviously it's local, but this is the most talent Clemson's had now.
Yeah.
They've had to navigate it in a year where it's been weird.
I think Clemson they've got the talent. They can make a deep run here. I truly believe. And it's going to start with, I think, a low-scoring defensive game like they've done a lot.
It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be like a boxing, like a grinder.
It will be. But I think Amir Sims and Trapp and those guys, I think they get a win against Rutgers and take on Houston in the second round, where, John, I actually think Clemson matches up pretty well against the Cougs.
Interesting contrast in styles here. Houston, very athletic, very.
Again, two good defenses.
I think it's a problem for Houston because Houston is like, they're not. I feel like they're not very deep. And I feel like they kind of play the four guards with one big guy, but they can kind of interchange their guards.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Clemson's kind of a tough matchup for them because for what they want to do, Clemson's going to plot it. They're going to Clemson kind of forces you to play the way they play.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
So I think that's why Clemson beats.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that match up well there, and I think honestly, I'm not sold on Houston. I think they're a little overrated. I mean, they're good.
That's a good league.
I'm not going to question how good but I do think they're a little overrated.
Well, the eyebrow raiser for me is East Carolina beating them. I'm like, who? Like what? Like, how, if you're a number 2 seed, you don't lose to East Carolina. Furman probably beat them by, I'm not saying they'll be by 20, but they would beat East Carolina, I'm pretty sure. That shouldn't happen. I don't know what East Carolina's record were, but they were nowhere close to the NCAA tournament.
No, and you're right. That is an eyebrow raiser. So I got Clemson going on to the Sweet 16. In the game above them, we both have San Diego State playing West Virginia in a game where I think the Mountaineers are going to be the favored. I like West Virginia. I really do. I really like this West
Brian Dutcher, interesting. He's a Steve Fisher disciple. Coach at, I think, San Diego State now. Was a coach. I wish they would have made this happen. Brian Dutcher was an assistant when Juwan Howard played at Michigan under Steve Fisher. See, if I were on the committee, that naturally would have had to happen. But anyway, They couldn't work it out. But a fascinating game here. Bob Huggins, another kind of coach that is just won wherever he's been. I agree with you. I think West Virginia wins this game. I think it's close. I think San Diego State's good enough to win, but I just have a feeling that West Virginia gets a victory here.
All right, so West Virginia, Clemson, who goes on to play Illinois in the Elite Eight?
Well, this game happened in football.
And it wasn't close.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. It's another contrast game. I'm tempted to pick Clemson, man. I know that's unconventional and that probably doesn't feel right, but I just don't feel confident that there's that Kevin Pittsnoggle out there this year for West Virginia. So I'm going to go with the Tigers.
As much as I love Clemson, and it's been a great year, a good run this year, and I think they get to the Sweet 16.
You're going to I'm picking
yeah.
Clemson to go further than you are. Wow.
I just think West
See,
Virginia.
like this would be the year that they would, because everybody thought they would, like last year. Or 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
I don't know. I just really like this West Virginia. I think they're really, really good.
Clemson's kind of one of those teams, though, that's built for like not necessarily regular season success because of the way they play, but they are for like a tournament. They're so frustrating.
We thought that with the ACC tournament, and it didn't work out.
But like they're facing unfamiliar foes. Like West Virginia doesn't really play. I mean, I'm sure there's a comparable team in the Big 12, but it's like West Virginia wants to press you. They want to, they want to get the game going, and that's not really Clemson. Like they're sort of like UNCG in the ACC. They're just like they force you to play ugly.
Yeah. They're going to force deep turnovers and things like that. Clemson don't have to do that in order to win. But I've got an Illinois West Virginia matchup in the Elite Eight. You've got an Illinois Clemson. Who do you got going?
Having said that, I think Illinois drills Clemson
in the
but I think it's a good run.
I may shock you. I'm going to take the Mountaineers over Illinois in the Elite Eight. I've got a Baylor West Virginia matchup in the Final Four.
Ooh, that's a good one. That one could be like 150.
And you, my friend, have a rematch of a Baylor Illinois game that took place in the regular season.
A game in which Baylor dominated.
Yes.
I mean, Kofi Coburn was a non-factor.
Absolutely. So
you're pulling tape of that one, my friend.
So here we go. Here are our Final Four. John, you've got Kansas, Baylor, Michigan, Illinois. I've got Virginia, Baylor, Michigan, and West Virginia. On the left side here, you've got a Kansas-Michigan game. Who do you like?
I've said it all year. I like the way Michigan shares the basketball. I like Juwan Howard. I like his energy. I like him getting thrown out the other day for Mark Turgeon trying to say he was out of the coaching box. Who does that? Like, are you really? Like, so yeah, I like Michigan. I like, even though they don't have maybe the Isaiah Livers right now, they're just good, man. I think it's been a nice story that I made out of Kansas, but this is where the road ends for Bill Self. I like Michigan going to the national championship game.
All right, so I have Virginia taking on Michigan, and much like you, I think Juwan Howard gets his team ready and beats Virginia. I like Michigan to make the national championship game where they will face Baylor. I got Baylor beating West Virginia on the other side.
It's been a nice story, Illinois. And you wanted to play Michigan this year and had some dispute over whether or not that game should happen. But I got Baylor and Michigan in the national championship.
So after all that, John, we both come
after so many disagreements.
We both have
the same two teams.
Baylor, Michigan. So we have two number one seeds making it to the national championship game.
Strange bedfellows here. Like Baylor was a program. This is what makes basketball so good. Like, remember, was it Dale Layer was the head coach? Who was a coach there when they had a player that was murdered? So like you've got that backdrop here. If Baylor is to make this run, they've had to overcome. Think about that in terms of PR. It's taken them this long to get like good, like relevant. So I think there's something to be said for Coach Drew to be able to, a guy at Valpo who hit a shot, one of the most famous shots in college basketball history, to beat Ole Miss. Now you've got him on the stage, and another guy and Juwan Howard, who made his name with the Fab Five even more so than I think what he did in the NBA. So,
All right, John, who wins the national
I
championship?
got Michigan. I got Michigan.
You got Michigan?
You got Baylor.
I like the Wolverines, man. They are good.
Oh, man, they're
Michigan.
Good.
I like the Wolverines. Give me a score, John. Give me a score.
86-82.
You're going high scoring.
Yeah, I think these two teams will get up and down. They both shoot it well.
You said 86-82, huh?
Yeah. They both get like, you know how some teams just come down and launch ill-advised threes?
Yeah.
These are two teams that get a lot of paint touches and the ball gets back out in rhythm to guys who are like already coaches will call it like Bob Ritchie, they got players that are already in shooting motion. So like when they're catching the ball, they're already shooting. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how to explain it, but like that's the rhythm these two teams play with. I like that. And I think that's very pleasing to the eye. And maybe us as sports fans need a national championship like that. And I think it's going to be a really good one.
I'm going 79-77 Michigan.
Cool.
Michigan
that's still relatively high scoring.
Michigan wins in the last few seconds on a layup.
Yeah. By Luke Wagner. I don't know.
Yeah. I've got a last second layup shot by Michigan to win the national championship. Look at us. We both picking the Wolverines, man.
I was impressed with Michigan last year. Remember, they went down to that tournament. They got ranked number 1 in the country, and it was right after Juwan Howard took over. They beat Gonzaga for the championship down there.
Yeah.
And we're impressive in doing so. I think they may have beat North Carolina by like 20 points. So, yeah, I like the Wolverines. And everything Juwan Howard, no pun intended, has touched has turned to gold.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely, man. So after all that, 2 hours later, we have finally arrived at who we think is going to win. We both pick the Michigan Wolverines. Well, John, we've been talking.
Actually, St. Bonaventure is now going to win the national championship.
Yeah. We've been talking for 2 hours. Real quickly, I do want us to touch on the Southern Conference football from this past weekend, and then we'll get out of here tonight. Well, John, we'll start with VMI just absolutely hammering Mercer. Reese Udinski, a great performance for the Keydets. Another good performance for.
Speaking of having the Midas touch there, Reese Udinski is pretty much struck gold there with VMI.
Yeah.
They're going through a football renaissance. For 3-0 for the first time since 1981. Yes, that's right.
Amazing.
Amazing. Last time they were 3-0. So they've looked to they're a championship contender. I mean, we have to face the facts, so to speak, right now. And they're a very good football team. And Reese Udinski is a large part of why they're in that position they're in.
Big test for them coming up next week with Samford. That'll be an intriguing matchup.
And that one's on the road down at, I believe, it's Hebert Stadium. Game that went to overtime whenever. 2019.
Absolutely. And speaking of Samford, they made it 6 in a row against Wofford, John. 950 yards of total offense for these two teams combined.
I mean, like, what is Chris Hatcher? He must be doing like a hex down there in Birmingham or something. Like, I don't understand, but like they've just had a great.
Oh, man, this one maybe.
I wonder if like it's not a secondary issue there. I mean, what was?
Wofford screwed me over, man. I almost had a perfect 10-0 record this week, and then Wofford goes and blows this one.
I told you never to trust a terrier. They'll bite you in the ankle every time.
I know.
So that's why I went with the Bulldogs.
I like it. Wofford off to a 1-2 start here in the spring of 2021. And
you weren't drinking the Liam Welch grape juice, were you?
I wasn't. But hey, he threw like 300 yards or something against the Terriers defense. Had a great performance yesterday against Wofford. Samford now back to 500 there at 2-2. Both teams, though, with 2 losses, you got to think neither one of them are really.
We thought like what Sanford team's gonna show up? I mean, like
Yeah, that's true.
what's their psyche gonna be like? They're like they're like the most of the teams. They routinely under Chris Hatcher, they've been very bipolar. Like you don't know. They've got a lot of talent. You just don't know which team's gonna show up.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Much like, much like the Citadel, you don't know which team's going to show up for them,
or
and
even if they'll have enough to show
if they'll
up.
have enough players. I told you, John. I told you on Thursday. Cullowhee was going to get the win. Western Carolina.
Get in the we. That was once their tagline there up in Western North Carolina. And
How about Donovan
the
Spencer?
shadow of Balsam Mountain got the job done on Saturday. And Citadel had a long winning streak, like 4 or 5 in a row in that series.
Yeah. How about Spencer rattling off 220 yards on the ground in a couple
and he does have Donovan Spencer. That's 2 ends to everyone out there. Yeah, I didn't know that either. But he's explosive. I mean, we saw him had a breakout game back in 2019 against VMI. So he's kind of like a poor man's Quay Holmes.
Hey, look, and he was the offense for Western Carolina because sure didn't get anything through in the air.
Yeah, so what you're saying is they're still struggling at quarterback. So
yeah, which was surprising, honestly, because wasn't Ryan Glover supposed to? I mean, he had 86 yards passing. 86.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just said let's simplify and run the ball. I could see them doing that. I mean, and to be quite honest, is their defense. While it's been weird, they're starting to play better.
They are.
And I know they got blown out by VMI last week, but they didn't. It wasn't horrible like I thought it would be. Like I mean, VMI is good. So
honestly, it's the offense has been a little bit of a bugaboo.
It's been kind of shocking to me that the offense has actually been worse than the defense.
Yeah, but they got the job done against a Citadel team.
But they do. Like Ty Harris is a very good linebacker.
Yeah,
they've got some guys on defense. And if they could find another guy, if they could get the ball to Daquan Patton, he's a very good receiver. They've got a very good tight end in Owen Kosinski, who was an all-conference player just a couple of years ago. The problem seems to be now quarterback.
Yep. John, the Citadel. I don't know what's going on with them. They've got a lot of issues.
I think it goes deeper than just having enough guys.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole thing that's going on. When you lose 9 in a row, there's something else going on there that we don't know about. And I don't know if that's a dynamic between Brent Thompson and his team. I don't know, but I know when it happened at Furman. And there wasn't like anything that was crazy going on. It just wasn't a good mix of players. It wasn't that they were bad people or anything. They just didn't have the right chemistry. And sometimes that happens. And they're in a weird kind of universe that we're in right now. The Citadel's had a lot of turnover. They've had guys that have gone on and started life, which is understandable, of course. And that doesn't have anything to do with coaching or anything behind the scenes. That's just the reality of it. And who doesn't want to get out of a military school? I mean, come on. Like, you're going to stay an extra year on, like, in the barracks or whatever they do down there? I mean, like, so I can understand that. And, the window of opportunity to start life is only so short. I mean, like, into your career or whatever. So that being said, I can understand the tough times they're going through a little bit. And then off the field stuff, obviously, too, with the bookstore thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see if the Citadel, they got a tough test next week, East Tennessee State.
Does it get any better? Like, where does this stop for them? Because now you thought it was going to be Western. Where does this end? Like, is it like we're unraveling some carpet and just pull up the whole floor? Or
because honestly, they've not even hit the meat of their schedule. They still have ETSU, Furman, Wofford. They still have VMI,
and their numbers were already bad coming in.
Yeah,
like they had talent, but obviously in a year like this, when you don't have numbers, that's when ETSU's coach did a good job of explaining like what numbers are like. Furman plays a lot of guys. They've kept guys healthy. And it's so fascinating how these coaches are approaching the spring. Some are playing guys to get experience. Other guys, like VMI and Furman, are playing to like win. Like they're trying to like win as far as they can go.
Yeah.
And I kind of think I favor that approach more so than say, well, we're preparing for the fall. I think that leads to disappointment. I could be wrong. I'm not trying. Like these kids didn't get a season last year, so I'm of the other mindset. I'm trying to play to get back what I lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not preparing for somebody else's
future. Yeah.
These seniors put in sweat equity just as much as the freshmen did.
Yeah. You think you'd try to go out there and compete as hard as possible to win.
If not more for those guys. I mean, who stuck around? Like Furman had like 30 guys that could have gone and started life and stayed around.
Yeah.
To play. I mean, it's just two different approaches. And I like the one Clay Hendricks and Scott Wackenheim have more than, say, some of the other coaches around.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Furman, John, and 2 weeks in a row, they've had to have a second half comeback to beat.
And boy, did they! It was like a truck running over somebody, right?
Devin Wynn, man, what a performance for him! 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Like an ETSU, I mean, they played such a great first half. They have a good football team.
They do.
The problem I had was, I mean, if I'm Randy Sanders, I don't let their team go over there and start jawing with Furman. Like, what, that's, to me, you're winning a game 10-0. You want to win the game. They don't decide it at halftime. My team's not going over there to give them any incentive to come out fired up, and that's exactly what Furman did. And they as much said it in the post game.
Yeah, a good performance by the Paladins in the third quarter. 17 unanswered in the third before ETSU put up another field goal. But ultimately, that Furman defense only giving up the 3 points. It was a 10-0 game at halftime, and then only giving up 3 points in the second half. There,
I like what Devin Wynn said. I guess it probably personified the way the whole team felt. He was like, "Well, they wanted to run their mouth, but we wanted to let our pads do the talking." So, yeah. And granted, Furman did some jawing, but that was after, like, that was part of them as, taking the game to ETSU in the second half. I mean, they were delivering blows.
Yeah, look, it was a hard-hitting game between these two. It was a very physical football game. Neither team really likes each other.
I didn't know. Like, I didn't know there was like. Apparently, there's some rivalry I wasn't aware of. I knew it. I mean, there's like some in basketball because naturally those are two teams competing year in, year out. I think ETSU, they lost a lot of close games last year. They won a championship, which is they rightfully earned 2 years ago. They're an up and coming football program, but it's a rivalry. They're trying, which I respect. They're trying to make it a one that's a year in, year out type thing, and I do respect that because to be the man, so to speak, you got to beat the team at the top of the ladder. And
that's right. So another good win for Furman. They move on 3-1. They've got Chattanooga coming up on next Saturday. John, Thursday we'll get back at it and make some predictions and take a look at next weekend's football schedule. Thursday, the first 4 of the games of the NCAA tournament get started. So the tournament starts Thursday. We'll have plenty of basketball action to keep us going the next couple of weeks. Looking forward to football schedule for next week. Real quick, one note. I don't know if you saw this today, John. Drew Brees announcing his retirement from the NFL.
Yeah, was something we kind of expected and didn't really know because there was a little bit of a delay on that. So, one of the real good guys. I like, I enjoyed watching him play and set all those records. And Obviously played with Spiller for a while, I believe. There with New Orleans. So he's certainly one of the guys that maximized his potential at the next level, and
Yeah.
got the most out of what he had. And people told him he was too small to play in the NFL. And
It's fitting. It's fitting that the man that played in black and gold in college played
right.
the majority of his professional career.
And he probably took Purdue to heights. I don't know when they've seen, and on the college football gridiron. I mean, when's the last time we had a top 5 Purdue football team? So
a long time since Drew Brees 20-something years ago. So
yeah,
congratulations to Drew Brees and a fantastic career for him. Only the one Super Bowl, but hey, that was a heck of a game against
Boiler up.
Yeah. John, looking forward to Thursday, man. Always have a blast. Looking forward to the tournament starting this week. A lot of basketball and football to keep us busy the next couple of weeks. For SoCon John Hooper, I'm Cameron Tarrant. This has been The Spread.